Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honorable colleagues. I understand that probably this is the hardest presentation of the day, directly after lunch. It can get challenging. I do understand that. So I will try to be as straightforward as possible, not trying to dilute things. Is it possible to place the presentation on the screen, please? So the first presentation that I will have the honor to present today, it's somehow specific, so it's not in general about artificial intelligence. We will try to specify it a bit further and deal with a topic in parliamentary affairs where artificial intelligence can be particularly useful. The topic is citizens' engagement. So how can artificial intelligence, specifically, not theoretically, of course theory has its uses here, how can it be of use? And because this is already a bit broad, we will try to assess cases that are already there. So I would like to start, and in the meantime, we will wait a bit for the presentation. That's mainly for you to have visual contact with the content. Sometimes it's getting more grasp. Let's start by somehow defining what do we mean by citizen engagement, right? Because definition here does matter in order to speak the same language, to be on the same page. And by the way, maybe you already have seen that the topic around citizens' engagement is maybe the first one in parliamentary modernization that has been debated and scientifically investigated in great detail. That's quite interesting, don't you think? Since more or less 30 years, very well-known scholars like Cristina Leston Bandeira, like Philip Norton, like Fallon, they have already in late 90s, early 2000s, they have started analyzing how societal stakeholders can have a participatory role in the greater parliamentary work, I would say. Thank you very much. It's a little bit late. This one? Okay. So okay. So already since 20 years, maybe more, I would say almost 30 years, people have started debating about the topic. And today, having this starting point, we will try to go a step further. And this next step that we're going to use is directly related to emerging technology. So how does emerging tech really affects citizens' engagement? The presentation is rather straightforward, no fancy stuff. So I will start with a small intro. These definitions are promised you. Then we will see what are the specific use cases, very, very specific use cases in parliaments of the world. So who's doing this? By the way, Brazil, we heard just in the morning, is one of, if not the most advanced in terms of participatory parliamentary governance when it comes to citizens' engagement. We will talk about frameworks indeed. So, okay, assuming we want to do that, how do we frame the topic? What can we do as institutions in order to efficiently and effectively integrate these kind of technologies? We will talk indeed about integration. Integration as more or less also a more technical note there. And I will summarize with some key takeaways. So we already started a little bit talking about this. Kindly check that artificial intelligence, which, by the way, if we talk about large language models, is not that old. I mean, from the late 2022, it started getting the hype it has today. But artificial intelligence was there previously as well, and we used to use algorithms for engaging the public already in the past decades. Kindly bring into your mind social media. No, social media is not a thing of the present. Social media was there since the early 2010s, a bit earlier as well. And there already machine learning techniques have been used to scrutinize the content of our posts and shyly trying to figure it out how to navigate these complex tasks of understanding the public sentiment in real time, right? And this is quite of relevance for what we are going to talk about today. But then, even before that, the ones maybe the digital the CIOs out of you might have recalled that in the 2000s we used to talk a lot, if not exclusively, about digital platforms. So rigid platforms without any fancy technology, more classical IT, on how to structure citizen engagement portals to interact with the public. And before that, it was more simple, like simple exchange of emails. So so it started. So with simple digitization, how to get information from the public. So from emails to digital platforms to social media, and now holistically using artificial intelligence. All this means that this is nothing new. What changes, of course, and this matters, are the tools. The core feature, nonetheless, remains the same. The core task remains to get information from the public and meaningfully, whatever that means in every context, integrate it somehow into parliamentary works. Of course, there are several challenges there, and this is why we're debating this in a dedicated conference. One of the biggest ones, and I agree with my colleague here completely from the Parliament of Portugal, there is a ever-increasing gap that we need to bridge between the technology and how we are able to control it and understand it, of course, at the same time. And for this purpose, the cybersecurity landscape is of particular relevance for parliamentary institutions. I will discuss it a bit towards the end of my presentations. And finally, all this, whatever we will do, because parliaments are sovereign institutions, they have the right, the constitutional right, usually, to decide about how they will evolve. Everything needs to be under the scrutiny of the parliamentarians. So we need, whatever we do, we need some sort of political control, which goes hand in hand with algorithmic accountability. Now, having said this, let's move to the part that might interest a lot of you. So what do we have now in the world of parliaments specifically that deals with the topic of citizen participation? There are not many studies out there, However, there are some. The first one we did with Patricia de Almeida, who works for the Brazilian Congress. It was published in 2024, but the data is 2022, so 2 years earlier. So this was the first survey that we know that assessed AI use cases in parliaments. And the second one, which is not a study, actually, it's also a survey. It's from the IPU, late 2024. It's also a collection of 60+ use cases. And since the topic that we're interested in is citizens' engagement, we analyze these dozens of use cases, and there are some very interesting ones. So in Brazil, we have, for instance, there are a few ones, the analysis of citizens' opinions on bills. So this is one very interesting and very specific use case. So since somehow we are collecting this information, we need on the parliamentary side to make to understand what they are all about, to cluster those, and then to extract the necessary information, maybe to drive the legislative process. Then in Italy, by the way, Italy is developing to a very big hub of parliamentary innovation and technology, the Italian Parliament, and not only in the European context, but in the general global context. They use a chatbot for citizens to navigate its content, which is pretty straightforward. If you ask me directly, I still cannot understand why not every parliament has something like this. It doesn't have to be LLM driven. It can be old school, still not perfect, but very easy, so to say, but rather easy to implement and does not hallucinate, usually. Third, another possible, sorry about this, I will go one step back. Another possible use case, not possible, actual use case is again from the Italian Parliament. They use a summarization technique. So, by the way, there are countless summarization algorithms. It's not, when we say summarization, it's not one thing. This is the application. How you implemented it, it's another thing. But indeed, they use summarization for enhanced accessibility and comprehension. So that people, citizens, societal stakeholders, whatever you call them, they can understand the documents they're reading. That's a very important point. In Bahrain, this is Bahrain, not Bosnia-Herzegovina, they also use a tool recently developed to visualize data. Also, in my eyes, this time, I think data visualization will be one of the biggest drivers for citizen engagement in the future. We know this from studies in the private sector. You need to visualize information to make it sellable, the product. And these kind of studies that are there for decades, unfortunately, they were not used, or they're not transferred into the parliamentary workspace. But at some point they will. And data visualization is one of very prominent way to make things understandable. And last but not least, our colleague Ludovic is here. He will elaborate in his presentation a lot about this. Summarization is also used by the European Parliament in their archives and elsewhere as well, to make information as a huge text, to make them smaller, more edible, understandable for citizens. So all this are bits of tasks and applications that advance citizen engagement. So citizen engagement is not a single thing. It can be everything on how they perceive, it's the citizens' information, how they express their sentiment, how they're making it accessible, they are transferring it to the parliament, and how the parliament is receiving it and processing it. So it's a big circle of things. And indeed, there are now several applications, and probably there are more. These are the ones that are documented publicly that are already there. Now, as we said, we need still this is AI. Still, this is a technology that needs to be regulated, that needs to be confined, and needs to be responsibly and strategically included in a parliament's development or modernization process. There are indeed some frameworks that are already there. Are they complete? By no means, but somewhere one has to start. So there are, from the IPU, last year, there are the guidelines for AI in parliaments. From the WFD, also, there are the ones that we developed together with João Lima here and other colleagues from around the globe. Monica is also there. So we tried, and this is very important, we tried to express the parliamentary world in developing those. This is not necessarily the experts' world or the technical world's approach. They might do things a little bit different. We try to express ourselves in a parliamentary way so that these are maybe easier to implement as well. And then starting there, so this is the framework, but the framework has to be broken down in actionable recommendation and steps. And parliaments have already started doing that. The Italian parliament has guidelines internally, its own guidelines, because the ones that I presented previously from WFD, which is the Westminster Foundation, and the IPU, the Interparliamentary Union, they are not for individually located, positioned. They're broad, so you need to localize these. And parliaments have started already doing that. The UK, Brazil, the US Parliament, the Congress, and many more, they start doing this as we speak. And okay, let's assume that you have the framework, and the framework is rather broad. Still, you need to define the specific steps, how you can take an application as the ones that we presented before, so a citizens engagement application. You still need somehow a strategy, an approach for integration. And we tried, this is fairly new, we tried to present such a series of steps for integrating this kind of technology. It's not, this is not Nobel Prize stuff. This is fairly transferred from the private sector. What companies have done for ages, internalizing new technologies, using change management processes and so on. So you need to have some sort of a governance layer. So that the top tier, so the leadership needs to be able to govern all process. Otherwise, everything is luck, by chance. Then you need a strategy. Then you need to prioritize. I think it was mentioned sometimes we don't have unlimited money to spend, so let's do everything that we have in mind. It's not possible. You need to prioritize. Prioritization can be political, or can be economical, can be whatever, but you need to prioritize. Then you need to implement. And as João said, there are low-hanging fruits and high-hanging fruits and everything in between. So maybe you need to start with the easy things first before actually going into depth. And you need to train. No parliament has a capacity, I don't know any parliament, at least on my side, to do all this and start immediately without any lag, without any consideration. So you need to train. And training in itself, it's a very complex process, as we have learned in the past. So all this, and it's of course it's more complicated than this, needs to be planned. But these are the 5 steps that or points that can be used to drive the process. So now we have to start digging in deeper, and we have done indeed all this. We have done work for the European Commission, which, by the way, is very interesting in doing that. There has been a couple of works by Monica on how to actually build specific applications and attach them into the legacy network. There has been a work by myself and George Micros. And this kind of works do the following. You say, okay, I want to do this, and I want to use AI. Bravo. What kind of AI? There are countless AI algorithms and technologies. So, and we need to do this for a specific application. Which task exactly do you want to automate? So we did the matching, the exact algorithm, the exact computer program, in general speaking, with the exact task, so that a software house can go there and build this. So you have to be specific and not move at a high level. So as we started from general, and we have to be very specific gradually. And now, towards the end of my presentation, things, instead of getting more structured, because all this was conducted for us to be more structured in our thinking, in our operations. Unfortunately, reality does not work like this. This is very new stuff, published just a week ago in Science. We imagined that this might happen, but not that soon. So there are several cybersecurity, as we said, issues. We call, Daniel said about denial of service attacks. This is old school. Deep fakes, we know everybody what this is, so that we can manipulate the electorate with fake persons and fake speeches. We have issues in authenticating the persons that are addressing the public, and very recently, it gets all this even more complicated by employing agentic swarms. So countless, really millions or even billions, depends on your resources, of dedicated programs that each one can replicate a specific personality, a specific individual. So it's not that simple like denial of service. You would send blindly, and you would block the ports in your system by sending countless emails. And then, of course, the server at some point would break down. Now, it's even more clever. It's not only big in numbers. Each one has a specific individual, a specific personality, a specific email, a specific, maybe even a homepage behind that, maybe even a social media profile. How can you separate this from from an actual person? And it has been, can you read the article? It's very interesting. It's very, very fresh. And you can actually emulate this. And it's very tough to beat that. This means that we, as parliamentary professionals, we need to advance our safety protocols. We need to, I don't know what we will do. Actually, it's very tough if you have this kind of dangers approaching you. I will close with a single slide that tries to solve a lot of the problems I mentioned. This has to do with a question I posed to the leadership earlier on. So what we are dealing here with advanced technology, very nice. However, not every parliament in the world is best placed in order to tackle all these challenges. So who has actually the money, the resources who has the expertise and who has the capacity to tackle these challenges. Not many parliaments in the world. So in Europe, we try to approach it in a different way. In Europe, we built what we call AI factories. This is public infrastructure. This is public AI infrastructure. This is publicly owned, European funded. Actually, it's co-funded, Europe and the member state. And it can support the parliament's endeavor to build artificial intelligence and incorporate it. This is what we have done in the Hellenic Parliament. We saw that there was no point in investing own money into applications and into directions we didn't know how they will evolve. Would we spend money or brainless, or would we would succeed in what we do? We didn't know. So we linked our parliamentary strategy to the national strategy of digital sovereignty. And this is the first parliament in the world that has done this. This is our parliament, the Hellenic Parliament. We think it's a quite innovative process, but of course, future will show if this is the right, if this was the right decision to make. I won't go into dedicated considerations on LLMs. Many people, I suppose, many experts will deal with that, and we'll close with a couple of words by saying that cybersecurity, I think that's the next big thing in parliaments. It makes no sense to further invest, at least in my humble opinion, unless we get a fairly well control on our systems and processes. If we can't do that, we will be vulnerable on all sides, and we will undermine our systems and our democracies, both from the inside and from the outside, from third parties and from adversaries from outside. Thank you very much, and I remain at your disposal as always for questions and exchanges.